What is up, you guys, and welcome to the RT Sidebar Podcast, your go-to source for respiratory care insights, education, and inspiration. As a co-host, I'm here to reshare the thought-provoking conversations, expert perspectives, and the latest in respiratory therapy. Whether you're a student, clinician, or just curious about the field, you are in the right place. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join us as we dive into today's episode. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome to RT Sidebar, a podcast by respiratory leaders for respiratory leaders. Today's episode is a live recording, a podcast by respiratory leaders for respiratory leaders. This is RT Sidebar. Stay tuned. All right. Awesome. This is RT Sidebar. Welcome all to this wonderful episode on leveling up. We are joined with Matt and Angela and the lovely Sarah. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you.
Sarah, we got in touch by just being a listener, and participating so much. And we were like, who is Sarah? So in that question of who is Sarah, what Hogwarts house do you think you would be in?
Well, I already know the answer to that. I am a Gryffindor through and through, but I also do have a little bit of a Slytherin effect to me at times. So
describe the Slytherin effect. What does that mean?
I'm pretty ambitious. I'm known to definitely try to push boundaries a little bit and definitely like to see outcomes very quickly. So that was where I kind of see myself as a Slytherin.
And how do you identify as a Gryffindor? Like what attributes?
I'm definitely one that'll speak up. And so if I see something that I don't agree with, I'll definitely try to make sure I make that clear that I don't agree with it. And then also try to advocate for others that maybe are not able to speak up. So I feel like I simulate with that piece of it.
I like this question because I think we get to understand a little bit more in good context as we discuss leveling up. Angela, Matt, what houses are you in Hogwarts? Have you taken the quiz? Is it official, or have others just told you?
Don't ask me. I have never taken the quiz before.
I want
read books.
I want to be a Hufflepuff because I just like the word Hufflepuff.
That's such a Hufflepuff thing to say.
Oh, is it? Okay. I love that.
No, this is funny too, Angela, that are you familiar though with Harry Potter and the houses?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Do you have any connotation with Slytherin? If someone was like, I'm a Slytherin.
Yeah, no, so I just started reading the books this last year. I'm 25 years old and I've never I don't even know how it ends. Like I've been that separated from the Harry Potter realm. So
Right.
I do understand it from that base that Slytherin are the bad kids or the mean guys and
yeah. No, well, should be its own podcast. It's like Angela's predictions of Harry Potter. This is actually crazy and unplanned. So that's awesome. Really cool. But yeah, Slytherin is seen as the bad dudes. They're slimy and they're ambitious. And I'm coming at this live from New York. I think New York is a ton of Slytherins. And how can we not talk about leveling up without talking about ambition? And that's really how Sarah and I connected, of two women in our 30s. Two women in our 30s who wrestle with ambition. And so Sarah, have you ever wrestled with ambition, and how do people perceive your ambition, and how have your coworkers? And I don't think it's shameful to be a Slytherin. I think it's good that you admit that.
Yeah, no, I would definitely say that ambition, especially as a female leader, is really, it's kind of a challenge because you don't want to be perceived as coming off too strong, but then you also need to continue to have confidence and be able to have people around you have confidence in what you are speaking and your decisions. So it's this constant balance of trying to please people, but yet also stand strong for what you are going for. So ambition is a tricky one, I feel like, because you're never going to make everybody happy is what I've kind of come to terms with. And you just have to stay your true course and recognize what your long-term aim is.
Tell us a little bit about your background. Like, did you start and stay at the same hospital as a floor RT? Like, did you start there? Like, talk a little bit about that experience, and then how did you pivot to then get to the next level into a leadership level?
Yeah. So no, I have moved around, but not much. So when I was a new graduate, I started at Froedtert Hospital, and I worked there for a couple of years, loved it. During that time, my husband actually, while I was through RT school, and then shortly after that, he was in medical school. And so then he had gotten his residency at University of Iowa. So I ended up moving over to University of Iowa after a couple of years. I was going back and forth between Iowa and Wisconsin on my days off. It was long and hard. So I ended up finding a position at University of Iowa, and it was an amazing experience. I got so much knowledge, and I built on my clinical skills in a really short amount of time. They were very open to kind of moving you throughout different pathways that you wanted. So I got to practice in multi-hyperbaric or multi-place chamber for hyperbaric medicine. I helped in the bronch lab, PFT is, and then certainly in ICU. And then I also, towards the end, started learning like their super preemie NICU. And just in time, my husband then, when he was completing his fellowship, had been interviewing for hospitals and realized that, oh, he did want to go back to Milwaukee. So I am like, well, I know where I'm going to go. So I went back to Froedtert Hospital, and that experience actually helped me with securing a lead position then when I returned. And then from there, I practiced in that role for a few years and then moved into educator. And since then, my role has changed quite a bit, taking on more of like a quality role in collaboration with education. So now I've transitioned into a respiratory practice specialist. And then I just recently announced that I'm going to be moving into a manager role at another hospital outside of our organization starting in January.
Wow. Yeah.
Thank you.
Congrats. Cool career path. And that's awesome about the new position. We have previously talked about how you were gaining all these clinical skills and really building that clinical acumen. And then you're like, wait, I want to go into leadership. And I relate to a friend who started at a company who he was an intern at the company. He stayed at the same company, like, and now he's in a leadership position and he manages a couple folks, but he's struggling at really breaking into that next level, if that makes sense. And he feels like everyone still looks at him as that intern, even though his responsibilities has increased, but he's been there for so many years that it's almost like he's fighting the reputation, his own reputation. But that reputation is what's gotten him to where he is. He's not sure if he should go to a new company. Like, is it like, has he used this experience and has it run its course? And does he now need to pivot and start somewhere new just so that he has a new reputation? So they stop seeing him as this intern. Do you relate to that like at all?
100%. Yeah, that's been a constant struggle, I feel like, because you're just sitting there at times. You have people that you've grown up around, and they have a perception that they've gotten to know you from, and trying to help them sometimes break through that and seeing that you offer additional things as you've grown. It's hard. So sometimes you do have to kind of consider that. And I do feel like when I had stepped away from my current organization and worked at University of Iowa and then came back, people had a different perspective of me. And I, I would definitely think that that is the case that will likely happen again if I was to ever return, moving from a practice specialist into a manager role. I think that'll help with people seeing that. And it's also kind of that time away, I think, sometimes being able to kind of disassociate to some degree and be able to see people in a new lens again then when time has changed.
I think it was the educator role that was that climax for you of that tension? Do you mind talking a little bit about what happened there?
Yeah, yeah. So there was a vacancy for a little bit in our department for educator, and there was actually me and one other peer at that time that were really vying for that position, and it had started getting a little messy. We had previously been really good peers, And I really looked up to him as like a person to go to. He was so knowledgeable. And he had actually previously been the manager years ago, or not manager, excuse me, the educator years ago. And we ended up finding that we were essentially talking smack about each other and trying to promote people to saying that we would be the better fit. And so when it was time for the leadership team to make a decision and I got called into the office, I thought I was so nervous, like, what is it going to be? Are they going to tell me no? If yeah, that's the answer. What am I going to do? I'm going to be embarrassed. If they say yes, that's awesome. So I get in there and I'm with the two managers, and one of the managers is telling me about how great I'm doing and all the wonderful things. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting it. And then I just keep like getting excited, like, come on, just tell me the answer. And then all of a sudden, the other manager, almost like a good cop, bad cop, is like, Sarah, you're not getting the position. Nobody's getting the position. And I was like, what? And I was just so like in shock. And then the first manager kept telling me again, like how great I'm doing, but there's been all this frustration and tension, and there's a lot of drama that's coming up. And we really don't feel like this would be the appropriate time to put either of you in this position. And so a couple of things came from this. I was, first of all, like just dumbfounded. I was like, wow, I felt like I'd been doing such great work, and you just told me I was doing great work, yet I'm not qualified for it. And then I also really took away from it that I don't like sandwich feedback, because I really thought I was doing something great. And then at the end, you're telling me again, I'm doing so great, but I didn't meet the needs for this role. So it was really frustrating. And then after that, my peer that I'd been going against for this position, he ended up leaving the organization. And in the meantime, we didn't have an educator. We had new graduates and new hires coming in. And then I was asked to help with that, even though I wasn't granted the position. So I had to make a really kind of a big decision on, do I actually want to do this? Because you guys just told me I'm not qualified for it at this time. And I decided I was going to go ahead. I needed to show them that I was the right fit. And so I did. I did help with that. And then our director, who was new at that time, had come in, and they had started opening up for the interview process again. And so I reapplied, and then I was able to get it. So I think just taking that time away for humility and really stepping up helps show them that I am mature for this position and I am a good fit for it.
Wow. Wow. That takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of, putting your ego down. But I think that this happens in a lot of respiratory departments, right? You have a position that opens and you have peers that are going for it. Was there, like our Harry Potter teams, right? Was there Slytherin versus Gryffindor, and did people take sides on that as well? Is that how this became icky?
Yeah, I would say that's probably where it came down to, is that there were a lot of animosity, right? People were breaking out into, my team versus his team, and it became toxic. It wasn't the environment or culture that we were trying to create, and we were trying to get out of that kind of mess. And so I definitely, in retrospect, see why they did it. But the approach on how I got that information given to me was not how I liked it. And so that was something I've learned, though, as an aspiring leader, that how I want to give feedback and get feedback maybe is different from other people. So I learned a lot from it, though.